Good afternoon and welcome to joining us for Lunch Break with the Rabbi today. It is May 13th, Thursday, right before Shabbat. It is the second day of Sivan, a special day indeed. And we will begin today by first reciting a psalm, Psalm 121, for the safety of our brothers and sisters in the holy land of Eretz Yisrael, that God protect them and shield them, they be safe and secure and stand up to the enemy, and finally be safe without any harm and without any issues, for peace and tranquility in the land of Eretz Yisrael. So please join me as I say Psalm 121. I will say it in Hebrew. Shir la mailo yisaseinai Eloharim yanyo v'yezri ezri mi madino yisei shamayim v'oretz al yitin la midrag lecha al yonum shemrecha hine lo yonum v'lo yishen shem Yisrael adino yishmerecha shemrecha adino yitzilcha yad yeminecha Yei mama shemesh liyakeka v'yareach paloilo adino yishmorcha mikoro yishmer safshecha adino yishmer tzeitzcha v'yecha omeato v'yadilom. May God guard you coming and going from now and forever. And we know the guardian of Israel, as we just said, does not sleep or slumber. God is watching over the holy Jewish people. And as we know that the prophet tells us, and as it says in the book of Deuteronomy, the land of Israel is a place where Einei Hashem Alekecha ba, that God watches it from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. So with God's watchful eye, He will protect us, guard us from any evil or harm. As we come closer to the holiday of Shavuot, I'd like to remind you as well, as Monday we come to hear the Ten Commandments. The Ten Commandments are read on Monday morning in the synagogue. Everybody's welcome to join us, followed by a beautiful dairy buffet, which is also the custom for Shavuot. Tuesday is the holiday of Shavuot as well, where Yizkor is recited. So there will be no lunch break with the Rabbi on the internet for Monday and Tuesday. We will resume again Wednesday with lunch break with the Rabbi. And being that we're getting closer to Shavuot, so we will discuss today a little bit about Shavuot and the upcoming holiday and what it means in our own life and contemporary application when we look at the festival of Shavuot. As the Jewish people prepared for the festival of Shavuot, just a little note, today is the day that God called the Jewish people the chosen nation. He called them a kingdom of princes, and He will be a chosen nation, so this is a special day as well. They say a story about this accountant who came to a doctor and said, "Doctor, I need sleeping pills. I can't sleep at night." The doctor told him, "Why don't you try something of an old method, which is close your eyes and count sheep as they're going in their pasture. And the boringness of it will make you fall asleep." The accountant says, "I tried that. The problem is every time I start counting, I miscount, and I'm up all night trying to figure out where I made the mistake." When we look at the Torah, and the Torah was given to us in the third month after the Jewish people came out of Egypt. The Jewish people left Egypt on the 15th of Nisan. 50 days later, they received the Torah on Mount Sinai. King Solomon, in the book of Song of Songs, he talks about the crown that the mother gave to his child on the day of his wedding. Our sages tell us that this crown that God gave the Jewish people as children, on the day of their wedding is the time of the giving of the Torah. If God was marrying the Jewish people, and God would like to wed the Jewish people, why did He have to wait 49 days? If He was so in love and passionate about the Jewish people, why didn't He do it right away? In fact, the reason why God took the Jewish people out of Egypt was for His love, that He chose them. And there was no difference at the time, as we explained yesterday, the difference between the Jews and the non-Jews. So why did God wait so many days, 50 days, until He took the Jewish people out of Egypt? Until He gave them the Torah from when He took them out of Egypt. Why didn't He just give them the Torah right away? Even more so, the Talmud gives some type of analogy to it. Is imagine you have a fellow who's sitting in prison. And the king comes and visits him and tells him, "You know what? One day I'm going to take you out of here. Not only am I going to take you out of here, but you will eventually marry my daughter." So the king takes him out, but then he's waiting. But he says, "You know what? The king was good on his first promise. I'll trust him on his second promise as well." So too, the Jewish people were in Egypt, in the bondage of Egypt for 210 years. hoping to be released. God says, I'll take you out, and then I'll give you the Torah. He took us out. But ever since he took us out of Egypt, every single day with great anticipation, we were awaiting that great day that God will give us the Torah. But what took so long? Why so long? The Talmud explains that God gave us the Torah, a Torah made out of 3, to a nation of 3 in the 3rd month. Something unique about the number 3. The Torah is made out of 3. There are 3 sections to the actual Bible. There's the Torah, which is the 5 books of Moses. There's the prophets and the scriptures, Tanakh, as known in short. To a nation of 3, we have Kohanim, priests, Levites, and Israelites. In the 3rd month, which is the 3rd month of Sivan. What's so unique about the number 3? Why did God have to give and wait to give the Torah in the 3rd month to the 3rd nation, to a Torah made out of 3s? What's so unique about this number 3? And why wait the time? And the commentators, and the mystical commentators especially, expound on this concept of the number 3, but even more so, what was the achievement of the giving of the Torah? Before the Torah was given, there was Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, great people, Shem and Aver. There were people studying Torah. As we know, the Talmud tells us, ever since the sages had the Torah, even when they were as a nation, the Jewish people always were studying Torah. So what changed? What dynamic, what purpose changed in the world because God gave us the Torah on Mount Sinai? After the 6-day war, there were many people looking to see how they can help the land of Israel. And there was one philanthropist came to the Lubavitcher Rebbe and asked him, his name was Rabbi David Deitch, and he asked him, what can I do to help the people in the land of Israel? And the Rebbe told him the most important thing that you can do is help people get jobs. Give people work and help them get on their feet. He said in a Russian community of a lot of immigrants that just came to Israel, they're looking for jobs, open up a factory there and give them jobs. That will be the best charity you can give. And so he did. He sent his son-in-law, Meir Zeiler, went to Nachlas Chabad, a Kiryat Malachi, which is a very immigrant community, put up a textile company and gave hundreds of people jobs. Part of the job was selling textiles, making textiles, but selling it also in the international community. And he would go every so often to a show, a textile show, to sell his goods that he made in the land of Israel. And the textile show generally was from Wednesday to Sunday. But being that he was an observant Jew, he would close his booth for Saturday, for Sabbath observance. And a few hours before the Sabbath, on Friday afternoon, he would hang up a sign, this booth is closed due to Sabbath observance. He reported this to the Rebbe on the next time he was in New York. And he got back a quick message from the Rebbe telling him that instead of hanging the sign a few moments before Shabbat, he should hang up the sign when he opens up his booth on Wednesday. There should be a sign that this booth will be closed on Shabbat. A practical reason is like this: people know in advance to buy their goods and not go to the competition. But even more so, that even in the textile show, every single day, people should know that there's a Jew that observes Shabbat. The achievement of Mount Sinai, the achievement of Shavuos, of the giving of the Torah, was not only the fact that we can observe the Torah, not only the fact that we can study the Torah, but the fact that heaven touched earth, where there was a fusion of spiritual and physical. Before the Torah was given, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, as great as they were, they couldn't put on tefillin. They couldn't give charity. They couldn't take a parchment and make it a mezuzah. They couldn't take a piece of wool and put on tzitzis. The ability to transform a physical item into a spiritual entity, to give it holiness and fuse it with holiness forever and eternity, was only given the power to the Jews at the giving of the Torah. Was at Mount Sinai. So why did he wait for the 3rd month? And over here, just in the timing and in the ability of the message of why number 3 tells us all. Number 1 is unified. There's nothing else but God. That's number 1. So either one or not. One is a concept that there's nothing else beyond it. There's no me, there's no you. There's only one. I don't need any physical, I don't need any spiritual. There's only one. Everything becomes concealed. Everything becomes enveloped in that godly imagination, in that godly passion. That's what there was before the giving of the Torah. Only one. Then, what's number two? Number two means opposites, polar opposites. There's physical and there's spiritual. There's interests that are materialistic, egotistic, selfish interest. And then there are spiritual, selfless interests, humility, but two opposites. And then you have number three. Number three is a unifier. Number three takes one from one end, one from the other end, and brings it together. It doesn't transform. It doesn't make the rabbi a doctor or the doctor a rabbi, but it makes the doctor that wherever he is, he utilizes it for a place of holiness. He becomes a conduit of holiness. Wherever we are, whatever we do, within our physical and materialistic sphere, within our own ego, within our own consciousness, we bring spirituality. This was the achievement of Sinai. This was the achievement that God was waiting for, number three, what number three symbolizes, and specifically after the 3 months, after the 50 days of the Jews working on themselves, recognizing that there's a one and there's a two, there's a physical and a spiritual. That fusion of physical and spiritual, that number three binding connection happened only with Sinai. We were able to take the two and bring it together. This was the ultimate task given to every single one of us from Mount Sinai until today. Our job and our task is to make this world a godly place, to bring heaven down to earth, to make earth heavenly, to two the both. Every single time we go into the store or we're walking in the street or we see another person and we are consciously thinking Torah and mitzvot, godly commandments. How can I do this seemingly mundane act, but do it for the sake of heaven? I have achieved Sinai. I've created number three. I've brought all entities together, whether it's Bible, prophets, and scriptures, Kohanim, Levites, and Israelites, the third month, but I've taken and united heaven and earth, and I've bound the two together. This is what we talk about. This is what the Torah tells us. As we come to the festival of Shavuot, the achievement of Sinai, we can do something that Abraham couldn't do, that Isaac couldn't do, that Jacob couldn't do. Transforming this physical world into a spiritual oasis. Bringing the heaven into every single earthly item we do. Recognizing the oneness of God, the number three, into every activity that we take upon ourselves. It is our hope and prayer that as we enter the festival of Shavuot, the same way the festival of Shavuot, which tells us about the Torah which is a Torah of peace and tranquility, that the Torah's teachings and ideals be permeated within the world, transform the world to a place of peace and loving kindness. Until as the time as the prophets tell us, as Isaiah says, the world will be filled with the knowledge of God like the water hovers over the sea, that the nations of the world will come to identify the greatness of God, and they will put down their swords and put down their guns and put down their animosity, and they will all come to recognize and serve one God. May it be now. Amen. Thank you for listening. Looking forward to celebrating Shavuot with you. Again, if you have any questions, visit our website, jewishally.com. Feel free to message me, give me a call. Look forward to celebrating Shavuot with you. May we all have, as the Hasidic dictum and the Hasidic greeting for the festival of Shavuot, Kabbalas HaTorah b'simcha b'pnimius. May we accept the teachings and the values of the Torah, b'simcha, with joy, b'pnimius, and let us internalize it and become changed and for better ever people because of it. God bless you and have a good Shabbos and a Chag Sameach.